Hello, this is the 60 video reflection about scales, like how do we make our scales, what are they based on, how are they used. Our scales are skill-based: speaking, reading, writing, listening, and culture application at this time. We did that because it can cover like those skills that are developed in the language. You can use those skills with every kind of content. And those are the things that you actually do when you learn Spanish. So we're not just learning grammar. We're not just learning vocabulary. We're not just, being able to say facts about cultural topics. How do you produce language? How do you understand language? That's based on ACTFL, which are our national standards, the Indiana state standards, and other world language development theories and such like that. All kind of came together, got adapted. We put our professional opinions on them about expectations, knowing that a 2 is going to be equal to a C and a 3 was going to be equal to an A. What types of production expectations do we have at those levels, and how does it build? 1 is mostly your vocabulary, your simple stuff. 2 is more phrases. Can I understand 2 words put together? Or can I understand or produce a conjugated verb? 3 is your sentences. Can I put a conjugated verb with a subject and added 1 detail to complete the sentence? That's our goal at 3. And then 4 is a sentence with 2 details, or that you can do exceptionally well, or your Spanish sounds exceptionally good beyond like common errors. That 3 common errors are acceptable, and then 4 are you do better, like you've moved past those common and acceptable errors. The weird thing about doing this in a high school is there's what we call the Marzano snafu. We don't have a whole year to develop these skills in our kids. We have a semester, and when we started, we actually only had 9 weeks at a time. So you had to be really careful about how you set up your assessments and how you use the scales to work in the time period allotted. So for instance, when we were on 9 weeks, we had to have a 9-week curriculum because the scope and sequence of the assessments to see a kid grow on the scale every assessment needs to cover the same scope and sequence. So instead of like on a traditional grading situation, you would have a test that was this big over what you know so far, and then a test this big over what you know so far up to that point, and then a test even bigger that you know up to that point. Your test grows on a traditional system using standards-based grading. Your test stays the same each time. So like all of our vocabulary, all of our grammar, all of our expectations are the expectations on every assessment. And so on the first one, the kid can show us they know this much. And then the next one, the kids can show us they know this much. And then even more on the next one. So it's just a shift in how grades are made and what tests show us and how you align that for your time period. That's gotten a lot better since we moved to semester. So we have a lot longer, so we can actually have less assessments. 3 every 9 weeks, or 4 in some cases every 9 weeks, was tough to manage. Semesters are much better. And I think that in a high school setting, it's going to stay on semester because of how credits are developed in the state of Indiana. But we do 4 testing windows or 4 assessments per skill each semester. And that's just on the skill ones. And then, of course, there's like formative assessments, grammar quizzes, vocabulary quizzes that we make sure that the kids score at least an 80% on, to make sure that they have like the nuts and bolts to be able to produce language. And if a kid scores less than 80%, then they come into remediation during our plus time, and we make sure they can score at least 80% on those nuts and bolts before they take their next skill assessment. Probably just said way more than I needed to. I think that about covers it. Talks about how we got our scales based on standards and professional expectations. We don't have any scales that don't follow a traditional format. We're on semesters. That has developed and made things better. We don't have any that are for the whole year because we work on semester. And our scales represent a coherent curriculum because they can be applied to any content. Thank you.